Our next session, starting right now, will be about what is going on in the UK, innovation, consumer demand, drives in policy, general, and environmental. Our speaker is Dr. Roberta Ray, who's a food and drink investment specialist for the Department for the International Trade in the UK government.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me here at VitaFood. So, as Natalia suggested, just to introduce me, I am the Food and Drink Investment Specialist for the DIT. So my role within the DIT is to support a foreign investor that are looking to come into the UK, facilitate your entry, your expansion, and help you navigate through some of the regulatory framework that we have, but also to try and perhaps understand some of the trends in the market that we have, the opportunity and the resources. So the UK market has always been a very appealing market for foreign investors. We have a fairly stable economy, and we are one of the biggest manufacturing sector within the UK. We are actually large in the automotive and airspace combined together. We have a business-friendly environment, and we are a reliable place where to trade and export. We have a mature market, and we are quite open to innovation as consumer demand. And this is why a lot of product innovation tend to come first within the UK. So today, really what I want to talk to you about within the context of sustainability is what's going on in the UK, what trend we're seeing, what innovation we're seeing, that perhaps it can give you a flavor of what's happening and where there are opportunities within this market. Every year we all read reports about trends and opportunity in different markets, but many of these can be very short-term trends. And obviously for innovation and for business to invent into this, what you're generally looking for is something that is coming, is here to stay, and is going to grow, and is going to have a demand for consumer. And often what we find is that really successful trend and innovation tend to have a connection across multiple drivers rather than one single one. So health remains at the top of consumer, and certainly the last few years are highlighted how important our health status is across many circumstances. But what do we think we've seen changing significantly is how we moved from a general health status that was linked to our blood pressure or our body weight to our overall wellness. And what wellness means include a lot of aspects to our lifestyle, our mental health, and therefore drives a lot of our choices and our lifestyles. As we just heard from our previous speaker, we want to know a little bit more about what we do and how we do it and how that fits in our beliefs and what we do. So a lot of the conversation I have right now with people is about a planet-based lifestyle, a planet-based diet. And there is a lot going on in this space, both in ethical innovation, and as we heard, where our products come from. There is a big drive from plant-based and sustainable product. So where is all of this coming from, and why it's so important for the food and beverage industry? When we look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we see that the food industry play a big role in this space. And actually, a quarter of the global emission come from food. And that, of course, is included in the harvesting, preparation, consumption, distribution. All aspects of food distribution play a role in this space. But one particular attention has gone into an animal products consumption. In fact, over 50% of animal production has a contribution to this. And also, half of all farm animal emissions come from both beef and lamb. So that has created a real focus on trying to identify alternative protein for consumption. There were two very big important reports that came out a couple of years ago. One was from the Eat Lancet Committee, and one was from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. What both reports highlighted was a connection between what we understand to be a healthy diet and what it is also a healthy diet for the planet. One of the key questions is, in the current climate we're in, can we actually feed the population with the diet that we currently have? And is this a healthy option both for people and the planet. And in short, the answer that came from both of these reports is the fact that we have a need for a reduction of meat consumption for a variety of health and environmental reasons. And the choice of a more plant-based diet has been a very appealing to consumer for a variety of reasons, because it actually ticks on so many boxes on ethical, environmental, health, and it fits in with a variety of social pressures that we live in. And so the driver for plant-based can resonate with a large majority of consumers. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but the UK has this now tradition that was started in 2014 that is called Veganuary. So it's an incentive for consumer not to become vegan, but to try the challenge for 1 month of their life in January. That is driven by the fact that habit change can be achieved by a prolonged period of habit. And so by trying to take a 31 days challenge of taking out animal products from your diet, you might embrace, in an easier way, a different lifestyle and choice. And the UK remained one of the most popular countries for veganism, and there was a record of 400,000 people worldwide signing up for this movement in 2020. And it keeps on remaining quite popular. And we actually hear a lot of flexitarian and alternative option of like meat-free Monday. They're coming more and more popular within the consumer. And this is when you realize that something is moving from niche to mainstream, and it's when it hit the high street. I don't know, again, how many of you might be familiar with brands like Pret-a-Manger. There is a very big sandwich retailer, but actually they started opening a veggie Pret that only sat the vegetarian product, and so they're swapping the traditional bacon BLT for a VLT or a tuna mayo with chickpeas rather than tuna. But also what you see across all the retailer, there is a much broader range of product that are hitting the shelf because the demand is increasing. And this increased accessibility to this product is clearly highlighting how it's appealing a much broader range of people. And this is no longer a trend, this is a norm. So we all expect to have at least a vegetarian option, if not vegan. And perhaps this has been some of the most discussed space when it gets into the high street. All the main chain, from Burger King to McDonald's to Kentucky Fried Chicken, are all brought into a market an alternative protein option. That's been quite successful, some of which have actually sold out within the first launch. And so it's really appealing to all consumers, to all groups, and to all age groups. And what we see there, and the UK has seen alternative protein product for a long time, and perhaps corn has been one of the first and the most traditional one in the UK, but they're actually looking not only at being a plant-based product or a meat alternative, but also to eat the sustainable aspect of it. So more and more products are start putting a carbon footprint into the product, and corn was perhaps one of the first taking this challenge on. And so the whole range of climatarian are not just looking at carbon footprint, but we're looking at the entire impact on water, animal welfare, the rainforest, and so on. So consumers are looking at an overall product, overall experience, and products now still they have to meet the taste, but they also have to fulfill a variety of ethical and environmental aspects. And just very recently in the UK, we've seen some more and more restaurants on the high street taking these on board or putting a comparison carbon footprint on their menu. It was quite interesting because, in particular, one of the most famous Mexican restaurant chain decided to bring these into the menu at the same time as the legislation brought in the calories into the menu. So really bringing again together what are you looking for when you're purchasing your food? What is your health goal that it goes together within not just a dietary calorie reduction, but an environmental side to this. And the UK is really leading into this, and within my role I work with colleagues across the UK to actually identify what the opportunities are, what the resources are, and what facilities we have if you're trying to enter the market, and what resources you can access to. And perhaps Plant-Based Valley in the northeast of the UK give you a very good example. It's a 55 acres of of space that is dedicated to the production of a plant-based product. So this is what we generally define as a soft landing opportunity, whereby if you're looking at coming into the UK, but you are not setting up your manufacturing site, you have an opportunity to start with an environment and a support that can take you through the whole process of the supply chain. But I think the food tech is also quite important. We can't grow everything and we can't be carbon efficient in everything that we do. And there is a lot of food technology that is coming into this space, starting from the vertical farming and to even more and more other aspects of technology. And the UK government is really putting this at the front line of their agenda. The Task Force on Innovation, Growth and Regulatory Reform is really looking at, now that we have left the EU, and what aspect of our legislation can be simplified to ensure that we are at the avant-garde of putting products into market to meet the consumer demand and our environment. And just the other day on the Queen's speech, across all the bills that were presented, the genetic technology on precision breeding was actually mentioned. There is a very important one when looking into this space in understanding how we can simplify, without lowering any of the standards, what are the regulation on the gene editing for crops. There is a very, very important aspect of what we are trying to achieve realistically in this space. And so I just want to leave you with these thoughts about how important is this space in whatever your product is, whatever your venture is, in understanding what are consumers looking for and what is it that they're looking in your product that, yes, it still remain with the taste, if it's a food product, but if it's a supplement, where it's originating from, and the entire journey that your product goes through. And this is not something that is just happening in the UK, it's a global phenomenon, but what we are trying to develop in the UK is an ideal setting for product development. And when we're looking at a product, the product, as I was saying, is the entire journey and include its packaging as well. And the consumer wants to understand a little bit more now of what it means recycling, where is the packaging of your product coming from, and understanding a little bit more about the resources that goes into your product. And this has also led to a lot of innovation. And we see a lot of our university working together across the different sector and different departments, bringing together innovation like the little bubbles of water that we saw on the London Marathon a few years ago. And this is a technology they've used the seaweeds to actually give you an edible bubble where you can consume just a shot of water that you can easily imagine can have so many other applications. But also what it's happening within the UK is that we are trying to line up our policies. A few years ago, we had a carrier bag policy that is now quite across all the UK. They put a very small charge on disposable plastic bag. And that is most probably the biggest behavioral change that we've seen within consumer, where a very small financial incentive has actually led us to everyone start using, recyclable plastic bag. And so this is something that we are looking at expanding within the policy to incentivize changes in consumer behavior. And again, this is something that the UK is looking in where the high potential opportunity in this space are. And certainly in a lot of spaces, we see a lot of R&D, a lot of innovation, automation can actually help in the new generation of packaging. And this fits very well with the zero emission plan. In 2019, the UK became one of the first major economy to adopt a legally binding obligation to reach net zero from greenhouses by 2050. And as part of the government 10-point plan, we absolutely laid the foundation for a green industrial revolution. And so really the UK is working towards, together with consumer, with industry, to try and deliver this ambition. There is certainly no an easy one, and it's certainly a very complex one. So I hope I've given you a snapshot of what's happening within the UK. And I really wanted to focus on the space because it's really perhaps where we're seeing the most of the innovation. We have a very large network of colleagues that can provide a lot of support to anyone that's looking to come into the UK, both from a business point of view, practical point of view, innovation point of view. So please do get in touch with me or get in touch with somebody with the DIT if you have any further question, and I will be happy to take any question from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roberta. We do have time for questions, so I wanted to ask the in-person audience, if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll bring the microphone to you. If not, I'll take questions from the online audience. We have quite a few came in, actually. So I'll start with the online audience. How consumers address the lack of some vitamins and iron in a vegan diet? At which level it will increase the consumption of food supplements?
Good question and very subjective. I think a majority of people that make a dietary choice, an avoidant dietary choice, they're quite aware of where the gaps might be. And I can't speak on individual, but perhaps they do take a supplementation route in whatever is missing. I think from a science point of view, it takes quite a long time to develop a total deficiency. I mean, most diets are quite varied. Certainly, there are good points in a complete avoidance of animal protein within our diet for requirements of supplements. And so I'd like to think that anyone that takes that route would take that into consideration and would be aware of that. So, and perhaps I should have stressed that in my talk, that's why I thought for many of you who are in the supplement space, this is something to also take into consideration. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, the online audience, for submitting your questions. And the next question is asking, are vegan alternatives like chickpea mayo, VLT, etc., cheaper than their meat alternatives like tuna mayo or BLT, considering overall prices?
Again, very good question. The price point has been a very, very big discussion, and this is where the technology comes into it. The processing part of this, I think, is what it has to be considered. Perhaps if you look at just the ingredient, it's very simple to think the plant-based should be cheaper than an animal-based protein, but the processing that has to go and the innovation that has to go in the development of these products at this stage perhaps is not always as competitive. So if you are creating something that is trying as much as possible to mime those kind of products, it is where you see that the price point is slightly higher. But certainly the high streets are very much looking at matching the prices. Certainly for some of the products that you get in the fast food outlet, you don't see a much price difference in that space.
Perfect. We do have more questions from the online audience, but I just wanted to check if we have any questions coming from the in-person audience.
Don't be shy.
We do, actually.
Thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering, is the UK looking to enforce any legislation around environmental labelling?
How long have you got? It's a very, very good point and is currently being debated for a variety of reasons. And without opening the whole conversation on how these things are measured, it's a very good point. There is a lot of controversy when you see these numbers and how do I compare the CO2 emission of one product versus another. There are general guidances that people follow, but there isn't a standardized approach. And it's not just an UK issue, it's pretty much a global issue. And generally anything that tend to go in these spaces, it tends to be addressed by codex at United Nations level. So we haven't reached that stage, but certainly within the UK there are lots of groups that are debating, can we standardize this process? How do we make it clear and transparent? Because although they are voluntary labeled, there is still a regulation within consumer information that cannot be misleading. And obviously if product A calculated in a way that is not lined up with product B, that's where the information can be misleading. So no, there are not set standards, but there is a lot of conversation. So at the moment, a lot of this information can help you compare product within a same range or in a same menu, or to get an idea how you compare with the original product. But it would be a little bit debatable comparing one product versus the other if they have not used the same formula.
Perfect, thank you. We have a question here from the online audience asking how this vegan trend will affect the food supplement market. Have you seen an increase on the specific vitamins or mineral supplementation?
Absolutely, and this is, again, we can open another debate. People are looking where possible for plant sources of certain vitamin, but of course, as you know, you cannot get certain things from the plant kingdom. Perhaps one that there's been a lot of noise about has been collagen, because it's become a very popular supplement, and the idea of a plant-based animal protein doesn't really work. And of course, because we're still looking for natural sources rather than synthetic, it's making it slightly different. But yeah, absolutely, people are looking. And perhaps we might see in that space the shift where a synthetic product might take over a natural product. It's very early stage, but it's certainly a space to look.
Perfect, thank you. Just to check again, if anyone has any questions from the in-person, let me know. We have quite a few questions coming from the online, but if you do, just raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone to you. But if not, the next question from our online audience is asking, can you touch base on government funding programs to UK-based nutrition businesses for innovation?
Good question. Yes, and there are loads of bodies that are looking into this. The UKTI being one, and certainly there are grants available to work with our R&D departments within the UK. There are also incentives for businesses to set up in the UK, but those are generally more linked with local authorities rather than a national level, and with the devolved administration. Please, the person online has asked the question, get in touch with the DIT, because we can provide a lot more information. Feel free to contact me and I'll forward to the relevant colleagues, or just get in touch with the department.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Roberta. And one question he is asking, are plant-based meat substitute actually healthier?
Another very good question. Okay, so the guideline that started from the big reports that I was presenting to you was very much talking about reducing our meat consumption and increasing our plant-based consumption. Reality is we are not all going to swap our steaks and our burgers and our chicken product for carrots and tomato straight away. So it is an alternative option to try and identify a product that can satisfy our demand as a carnivorous species into this kind of product. There is a lot of conversation, are these products healthier? By the time you try and meet the sensory quality of a, let's use the burger as the most common used example, the amount of fat and salt and sugar that you have to add into the product might counterbalance the protein idea. The protein reaction objective, I should say. So it's a debatable point. It's a debatable what health target are you trying to look at? Are you trying to reduce your animal protein intake? Yes. Are you looking for a lower calorie product? Sometimes, sometimes not. Are you trying to change your eating habit? Absolutely, this is an halfway space that can help you achieve that and change your habit. But there is so much innovation in this space that things change on a daily basis. So.
Perfect. Well, our online audience is very engaged in this session. We have a question here asking, is the Department for International Trade working on auditing the food and beverages in the UK, or is this responsibility of another department?
Not sure what they mean by auditing, but as a general case, my short answer would be no. The Food Standard Agency is responsible for most of the aspect of food safety and labeling requirement of food products. DEFRA is also responsible for a lot of the legislation and control in relation to agri-food products. So these are the main two departments that will be looking at controlling or standardizing or legislating any of the products. And of course, the Department of Health will be looking after any other aspects related to health claim or other aspect of it. So again, novel food would be with the Food Standard Agency. So I think the short answer to that question is no. The role of the DIT is very much on the economic, commercial side to support businesses entering and navigate through this space.